And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
The lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. They want us to sell our souls to barter profit like God's property. It's hard to market, so we steady to aim. Keep your eyes on target, 'cause when you got to drive, yeah, they'd rather you park it. But I don't valet, you ain't getting these keys. I'm keeping closed hands, I'm on bended knee. I'm just a reflection, dealing with 8 sections. Art mixed with life, you can feel the convection. Your lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
The white man is enacting a story all over the world. We left our homes and flooded the world. We smothered culture. We smothered knowledge. We erased history and rewrote it our way. Myself, my grandfather is 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. Claiming to be Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish is just a conspiracy. White men claiming to be of tribes of Israel when I'm Germanic. You know, I have no ties to Israel, no ties to Judaism. You know, except loosely written history that's been whitewashed over for centuries. And, you know,
from the Renaissance.
Oh yeah, right. You wipe everything clean. It's funny how exactly the Renaissance. It's this rebirth, but it's white rebirth. I think at the same exact time the Renaissance is happening, Columbus is sailing to America and committing genocide.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
There's only one true ethnic Jew, the Mizrahi Jew, because they are Africans, and if you read the original Bible written in Phoenician Hebrew, they're not. Jewish people are not Europeans. The modern Jews in Israel are Russians or Khazars to be precise, from Russia. I learned it from my grandfather that because he was an Ashkenazi Jew.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
You know what you are? You are an ancient Israelite.
Ancient Israel, that's who we are. I'm telling you, that's who we are. So if you give me time, if you give me time, how old are you?
No, we don't have.
So many years.
I know. Look at this. This is pages and pages of notes, and I promise we'll give more teaching. But here is my challenge to you.
All right.
I'm hearing some of your traditions. It's like the days of the Bible.
Yes.
Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? Do you want to I'm hearing some of your traditions. It's like the days of the Bible.
Yes.
Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? That is the question I have for you.
Thank you. I'll answer that question.
Go ahead. I will help you.
After
the demise of Solomon, we now have the northern and southern kingdom of Israel.
Yes.
So when we talk about Jews, Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites. Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites. Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites. So when we talk about Jews, Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites.
Well, it's depending.
So minority cannot swallow the majority. We are here. We are the majority down here. So you are minority, and we are older than you.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
Finally, Wells comes face to face with the man he's been searching for. A new portrait of the common ancestor of every man today. Adam. Without the skull, we can't know for sure what Adam looked like. But a combination of genetic evidence, vendors' forensic skills, and cutting-edge computer software suggests he looked something like this. Thousands of years after the Bible, and hundreds of years after Michelangelo, we have a whole new face for Adam.
I like the expression. He's got a very forceful look.
You know, he's intent on something, maybe taking over the world. You know, you begin to get perhaps an insight into why these guys won out and why this guy's our ancestor.
Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
Want to say peace and blessings, family. Want to say shalom lak, mash, pakha. Want to say peace and blessings to you guys. Decided to do a live tonight. You know, I was taking a break, you know, during this time of bereavement for my family, but decided to do this live tonight based upon what was taught in the Shabbat earlier. So want to say peace and blessings to you guys. And I will drop the link in the comment section if you want to jump on and share your thoughts here. Wanted to give a big shout out to my sister Shonda. Got to catch up with you. I know I've been in hibernation mode, or taking a Shabbatical or Shabbatical, right? If we want to say it in the ancient Hebraic perspective, kind of taking rest to use this time to kind of mourn the loss of my loved one. But really appreciate you, sis. But let's connect. Again, I will drop the link inside the comment section for any one of you guys that want to jump on. And feel free, sis, if you're able, feel free to jump on. All right. But again, I want to say peace and blessings to everyone. Thank you for the love and support, the words of encouragement in the chats, as well as the emails that I've received. My family is very appreciative of the love and support. So again, I want to say peace and blessings to you guys. I know that this is not a scheduled live, but again, really appreciate you guys. Just decided to give you guys some food for thought, you know, especially when we're dealing with the beginning. And so right now I am working on a series, right? I've been teaching this for years. I did this series about almost 10 years ago. Time is flying. Titled The Atmosphere of Change, Creating the Atmosphere of Change. So I started teaching it again about 2 months ago. And this entire lesson is based off of Genesis, the entire book of Genesis. I did an entire commentary on the book of Genesis, creating the atmosphere of change. Now, we as a people, we can attest that we need change within our community. And Many have so many different ideas, great ideas, but there's a process if we really want to create the atmosphere of change. And it starts with Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1 gives so many nuggets of the authority that the Most High has given us and the changes that we can make in our communities, the changes we can push forth among our community, the different attacks that we have been subjected to, the strongholds that have been placed on us. So the atmosphere of change in Genesis chapter 1, and I'm going to do the teaching on it. I didn't do it live on social media. I've done the teaching locally, and this is part of my Hebrew Israelite, not Hebrew Israelite, but I would say my learning my ancient Hebrew Israelite lessons that I teach when I teach ancient Hebrew. So I will do that lesson on Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, the key to understanding how to change and shift things around us. But one thing I will say, a nugget for you guys: every single day of creation, the Most High started that day off with speaking the word. Waya Amar. That's what you would see. Waya Amar. And for every day of creation. So we have to learn how to start our days off, begin our days with speaking life, not death, speaking life, right? And we see that there's an order to creation, right? We know that the Most High didn't just uh, decide that, hey, I'm going to create the heavens and the earth without a plan. He already knew what he wanted to create, but then he put his word on assignment to bring everything to fruition. So he had to have an order, a structure, a process, right? Starting with creating the heavens and creating the earth, right? Because he couldn't create the heavenly hosts as well as the earthly hosts without first creating the earth and setting the tone so that way both can occupy where they need to occupy. So there was a calculated plan before he even got to the sixth day of creation and created us. So every day we have to learn how to create, put words, not just vain words, but put authoritative words out in the atmosphere. Start your day off with speaking life, not death. When you wake up in the morning, the first thing you should say is, thank you, Yah. Thank you, Yah, for watching over me, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. And when you live to see that morning, there's so many people that went to bed with plans that they were going to do the next day, even have breakfast with their loved ones, not to wake up. Had a coworker. This happened about 6 years ago. Had plans to eat breakfast with his family, his daughter and his wife and his daughter, right? And they went to wake him up, and he didn't wake up. So don't take any of this for granted. When the Most High allow you to see another day, bless the Most High that you have seen another day. Start your day off by speaking life. Don't start off by speaking complaints like, oh, I don't feel like doing this, or I don't feel like doing that. No, you start your day off with speaking life. Put your words on the right assignment, not wrong assignments like complaints. Put your words on the right assignments, and that is setting the atmosphere on how your day is going to go for that entire day until the next day comes. So that's part of the lesson of creating the atmosphere of change. Now, in this lesson, right, the I would say the subtitle would, I would call it, "It's all in the name," right? It's all in the name. And when we understand, and I'm sure you guys can attest to this, names have meaning. Names are very important, contrary to what we may think. The way that we've been dumbed down. Oh, it doesn't matter what the real name of Christ's name really is, but as long as you know that his name is Jesus. When we know that Jesus is a transliteration of a transliteration of a transliteration, but yet we are told that his name is not important, or Yahweh, right? I know some of you guys may say Yahweh, some of you guys may say Yahuwah. Not going to get into the semantics of that, but we're told that the name was so important that Israel did not utter the name, so they forgot, they lost the actual pronunciation of the name, which that is the furthest from the truth. Why would the Most High would make his name so sacred to where as though his people forget what his name is? And yet the Most High, we see in Genesis chapter or Exodus chapter 15, the Most High is making it clear what his name is. So these are some of the lies. His name is not Lord. His name is not God. His name is Yahweh, which means he exists. He exists, right? So again, I'm not going to get into the semantics, but words have meaning. And so the key word that you have to really understand, you guys can make a note of this, is called Sham. In the Israeli language, they refer to this word, they pronounce it as Shem or shame, right? But Sham from an ancient Hebraic perspective, that's how you pronounce the word. But this word means reputation, it means character, it means glory, it means fame, right? Sham, that's what it means. Literal title, but also it means again, as I just pointed out, reputation, character, fame, right? So that's what it means. So it's important to know the literal name, and it's also important to know the bearer of that name. So I want to make sure you guys understand this, because, the very people that tells us that names doesn't matter, but they placed us under names. They put labels on our community, like the label Black Hebrew Israelites. Not a single person that's awakened refers to themselves as a Black Hebrew Israelites, because we know that in itself is an oxymoronic statement, because we know the original Israelites look like you and I. So we would never label ourselves on use a contradictory or an oxymoronic term. So these are some of the labels that others want to place on us, because they understand names have meaning. They want to give us new names that they developed, so that way we can continue to rehash those names, those strongholds, rehash those dependencies, rehash the ignorance. But the Most High has a special plan for that. So with that being said, I just want to start off by setting the tone of understanding names have meaning. And I'm going to touch on Adam, right? I'm going to touch on Eve. I'm going to touch on, which her name is Hawa. I'm going to touch on Cain, right? Kayan or Kwayan. I'm going to touch on Abel, Habal. Those are the ancient Hebraic pronunciations of their names, to show you and give you a completely different perspective and answer some questions about the situation between the two brothers. So let's go ahead and get into it, and we'll give shout outs as we progress. So again, I appreciate you guys for the love and support. My family appreciate it, and keep us in prayer, because I will be going to Jersey on this upcoming Tuesday for the funeral. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this lesson, because I want to show you how names have meaning. All right, here we go. So creating the atmosphere of change. It's all in the name. How important are names? How important are names? And I just explained it to you, but names are very important. Names are very important. What do they tell us? Do you know that there's so much that we can learn from names? There is so much that we can learn from names, understanding the meaning of names. So how important is this in creating the atmosphere of change? Right? The scripture tells us, so a man thinketh, so is he. Right? We know that the names are very, very important, especially when we start dealing with the atmosphere of change. How are you able to speak life if you don't understand what you're speaking? So names are very important, very important. We're going to cover and touch on this a little bit more in this lesson. So, but I want to take you to a key prophecy that deals with names, right? Isaiah chapter 44, verse 5. This is what it says here. One shall say, I am Yahweh's. Another shall call himself by the name of Jacob. In the ancient Hebraic pronunciation is Yahweh, right? Yahweh, right? So name Jacob, Yahweh. And another shall subscribe, in other words, write, Kathab. In the Israeli language is pronounced Katab, right? Some would say Katub. This when you start getting into, for example, the wedding contract, the marriage contract, right? But anyway, another shall subscribe, in other words, write, Kathab, with his hand unto Yahweh, and surname himself, Kana, surname himself. That's the Hebraic ancient pronunciation of surname himself. This phrase here, Kana, by the name Hasham, Yashara'al, the name, the literal name. So it's saying that Yah's people are going to, and this is dealing with the Babylonian captivity, but we don't even have to minimize it or reduce it to just that captivity, right? But we know with the Babylonian captivity, King Nebuchadnezzar made it a point to change all the names of all those he took and placed them inside his places, his spaces, and put it on to indoctrinate them by having them go through his university, his Babylonian university. We see that with Daniel and his friends, right? So he began to put names. He came up with titles for each one of them to remove their names, their original names that always reminded them of the Most High, to now point them to, every time they say their name, is pointing them or bearing witness of their deities, Baal, right? So we have to understand names have meaning. So this is saying here that the Israelites, right, the Most High's true people, will start what? Taking on the names that are ours, Israelite names, right? And this makes me think about in the 80s, right? In the 80s, I remember when I was young, right? In the 80s, right? We began to take on nicknames like they were Muslim names, but we started subscribing to Kasan, Hassan, Mukaddin, Rashida, not knowing that we are actually pressing to fulfill this text. But instead of going through that process, now many of our brothers and sisters, with proper studying and understanding of the language, now we're starting to what? Come up with actual names pointing us right back to the ancient people, the ancient Israelites, right? So it says it right here. One shall say, I am Yahweh's, and another shall call himself by the name of Jacob, Yahweh, right? The name of Jacob. And another shall, actually, this is wrong right here. That's not Yaakov. That's, I don't know where. This is incorrect. This should not have a by. That's a ra. So it's here saying Yahweh. That's not it. That's means to call, right? Call out. So actually here it should be Yahweh, right? So excuse me for this type. I just caught myself just looking at it again. So this is Yahweh. This means to cry out. My apologies. I got to change this slide to update it, but it's Yahweh or Yahweh. So this is the Yad, the Quap, the Ra'ash, and the Alap. So this is Yahweh. This means to call out. That's not the actual ancient pronunciation of it. But anyway, I'm going to show you how our ancestors began to use the ancient name for Jacob, as a sign, as a title. Yashra'al, Israel. So let's give clarity here. Let's go ahead and get clarity. Let me use this to really paint the picture here. So again, the true Israelites, the followers of Yahweh, will profess that they belong to him, and they will take hold of their Israelite names free from the Babylonian influence. Let me say that again. The true Israelite followers of Yahweh will profess that they belong to him, and they will take hold of their Israelite names free from Babylonian influence. All right, so let me give you a little example of this, right? This is a map of Africa. This is from like the 17th century. This is a good map here, but I want to use this as an example because there are so many nuggets that's in this map. And let's highlight here because I'm highlighting this particular space right here. Right. So let's highlight this. As you see, it's labeled Sudan. Right. So there's so many nuggets we can learn about Sudan. Right. I remember I was there from when I was in the military. But anyway, Sudan, there's so many nuggets that we can learn about Sudan. That's a whole nother discussion. And I encourage you guys to get a book titled Black Genesis. That's a great book, and it sheds some light about Sudan, especially when we start dealing with pyramids and all. You know, the pyramids weren't just in Egypt, as we come to think. Many of us think when we think of pyramids, we just think of Egypt, right? But again, Black Genesis is a great book, a great read. I encourage you guys to put that in your repertoire. All right. So let's go ahead and highlight this area right here. And I want to use this as an example. All right. So when we look at this particular area, there's some nuggets here. There's a number of Hebrew names here that for most of you guys, if you don't know Hebrew, it's going to go right over your head, right? I'm just going to highlight a couple of them just so that way you can see here, right? We see Bambara, right? Bambara actually, Dabara, Bambara, Dabara. It means the word, right? And when you understand the Bambara language, you'll see how they use this language. When I say they, many of the from the Jewish community as we know them, they use their language, right, in order to get key definitions that they could not figure out in the Israeli language, which they call modern Hebrew. Bambara, this is when you study this language, this is a Hebrew language. Bambara, right? The ancient pronunciation, Dabara, right? Dabara. So this in part 3 of the Road to Savannah, I'm going to really touch on the Bambaras there. But that is a Hebrew name. Here's another Hebrew name. You see Rabbah. Rabbah means great. I know most of you guys, when you see it on the surface, you're going to think of rabbi. No, Rabbah. Rabbah means great. Then we see another Hebrew word, Sadah. Sadah. We can say Tazadah, but we see here Sadah, right? Sadah means side. When you go look up I believe it's in Genesis chapter 6, right around verse 16, you will see when this word there for side, side, Sadah. That's a Hebrew word for side, right? Then we see another Hebrew word. We see Adama Ua, right? So Adamaua, right? But really, when we deal with the first portion of this, we see Adama. Adama. We know Adama is the ground. We see Adam, which is interesting when you look at this entire region here and you start studying DNA, right? The geneticists, all of them will point to the Adam coming from this region here. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion, right? So far, I just identified just real quick, just simple Hebraic words here in West Africa. But here's another Hebrew word that some of you guys may have missed. Yakoba. Yakoba. We see Yakoba here. Now, let me zoom in so that way you guys can see, right, what I see up close. So as I highlighted Bambara, I also highlighted Rabbah, which means great. I also highlighted Sadah, which means side. I also highlighted Adamaua, right? Starting with Adamah, which means the ground, Adam, right? The first man, the created being that the Most High created. But then also we see Yakoba. Yakoba. There's some other words we can touch on, right? Like Kanim, right? Kanim. Doesn't that almost sound like Canaan or Cain? Right? But anyway, I just had given you 5 Hebrew words here, some key Hebrew words here. 5 Hebrew words. Okay. So this is important. This is also taking us back to what I just read out of Isaiah. Okay. Out of Isaiah. This takes us right back to here, this prophecy here. One shall say, I am Yahweh's, and another shall call himself by the name of Ya'aquab. Right. Again, this is incorrect. I got to correct this slide. And another shall subscribe, in other words, write Kathab with his hand unto Yahweh, and surname himself Kana by the name of Yashara'al. All right. So let's go back here. So again, like I said, there's some great information on this map here. But again, we see a territory called Yakoba. We see Yakoba. All right. So now let's go to the slave database, because I just shared with you a map that have Hebrew names. Now let me share with you from the slave database, right? And line this up with the prophecy that we touched on. Now we see some Hebrew words inside the slave database. Now, I'm not trying to throw any shade at him, but I want to make sure that we understand that I'm not throwing shade at him, but he was incorrect, completely incorrect. Fred Price Jr., Pastor Fred Price Jr., made claims that you cannot find any Hebrew names inside the slave database. His problem is he was trying to look for transliterated names, Hebrew names inside the slave database. You're not going to find Jacob inside the slave database. So in order to understand this, you are going to, you really have to know ancient Hebrew. You're going to have to know ancient Hebrew to really start making the connections, as I'm just giving you proof of this. So in the slave database, you see Bar Ban Yah. Bar Ban Yah. This is a Hebrew word. So now let's break down this word. And like I said, I'm not throwing any shade towards Dr. Fred Price, because his father laid out a great work and started the process of really teaching identity, the proper identity. Now, did he have it all together? Absolutely not. I believe, just like all of us, just like myself, when I began to start teaching this truth, I had to really, cultivate, right, my knowledge base, cultivate how to articulate it. It's one thing to know it, but it's another thing to articulate it. So I believe that many, like Junior, right, Dr. Fred Price Jr., he's right now in the process of cultivating what he knows. Now, if he chooses not to go further, that's on him. But anyway, so in the slave database, we see Bar Ban Yah. Bar Ban Yah. We know in Aramaic, bar, right, that means son, right? So we're going to break this down real quick to show you that this is a Hebraic word. We see this inside the slave database. In the background here, you see this is referred to a man that took on this name, that went by this name, and there's several entries inside the database with men of this name. So what does this name mean? And as you see here, there's some entries here, 4 names with this entry. All right. So don't let people tell you that there was no people, there was no one on the slave ships, there was no one in this captivity that went by Hebraic names. Then they try to move the goalpost by saying, hey, you know what, show me a Hebrew Israelite on the ships. And then when you show them, then they move the goalpost. Show me that they came off the ship saying that they're Hebrew Israelites. Then when you show proof of that, then they continue to move the post. That is the playbook. Don't chase behind people. Don't chase behind people trying to prove and validate who you are. No, the Most High, just like Christ said, the Messiah said, Hamashiach said, if I bear witness of myself, my testimony is useless. It's the Father that bear witness of me. And I'm paraphrasing, that's coming out of John chapter 7. All right. So bar, let's see what bar means from a Hebraic perspective. We can say bar or bara, because bara means create. But notice what we see here, bar. It says son, heir. Now, when we look up in the background here, we see bar, The Aramaic pronunciation of this word, as we see, it says a son, grandson. So we see here heir, right? The heir, a parent to a throne, but we see son, heir. So bar is a Hebrew word. Then we see bana. Let's see what bana means. It says here, bana, to build, obtain children, make, repair, set up. It also means establish. Now let's go to understanding this full definition of this word. When we bring it together, bar banya means build, repair, make stable your son Yah. That's what this name means. Bar Banya, which is in the slave database, and I've given you confirmation to prove with sources that this is a Hebraic term. This wasn't given to them by Christianity. This wasn't given to them by the Jewish community as we know them. These are the names that were stripped from them, our ancestors. Bar Banya means to build, repair, make stable your son Yah. Here's another word, Aman Yah. You guys know what Yah is, so I don't have to really break down Yah. We know Yah is the contracted form of Yahweh. Again, some of you guys would say Yahuwah, some of you guys would say Yahweh, but we are all in agreement that Yah is the short form of those names. We all can agree that Yah is the short form. Not Yahoo, Yah. We can all agree with the short form of Yah. But notice what we see here in the slave database, right? We have a man by the name of Aman Yah. Aman Yah. Aman Yah. Now let's see what Aman means. Let's see what Aman means. In the Greek, it's pronounced a man. In the ancient Hebrew, as you see here, the primitive root word aman, it means to build up, it means to support, it means to render or be firm or faithful, trust or believe. Right now, this is what you have to understand, family. From an ancient Hebraic perspective, faith, trust, believe, they are all synonymous. They all fall up under aman. So you can't have faith without trust. You can't have trust without belief. You can't have belief without being permanent. You can't say that you're permanent if you're inconsistent. Then we see to be true or certain. In other words, confirmation. Here's another key. To go to the right hand. Aman means also to go to the right hand. Who sits at the right hand? Who sits at the right hand? Even the high priest knew the importance of how to go to the right hand of the Father, because when you study Torah, you understand the roles and responsibilities of the priest, especially when you understand the Day of Atonement. So we know that the Messiah, Hamashiach, sits at the right hand of the Father. So the Israelites understood the importance before the Messiah even came, took on this flesh to dwell among us. They understood the importance of going to the right hand of the Father. So we see Aman, right? So again, going back here, Aman Yah. So I just defined that name. I could go into other names there, right? I could go into other names there, but I'm going to go to another key name that I just highlighted, that I highlighted in the prophecies of Isaiah. Right? In the slave database, you'll see this name, Yaakobah. In the slave database, you will see the name Yaakobah. Yaakobah. That's in the slave database. But let's go to the Hebrew definition of this word. Notice what it says. Yaakobah, an Israelite, towards Jacob. It also says son of Simeon and grandson of Jacob. So Yaakobah or Yaakobah, we see, or Quabah, we see that this is the grandson, but it still points you to who? Jacob. And you can pronounce Jacob's name with the ah at the end, because in ancient Hebrew, every letter was pronounced as a syllable. They didn't drop the the last in every word like we do today. So you can still say that it's pronounced the same way. But we see Yaakobah, right? So Yaakobah is the grandson of Jacob, right? Which is Yaakov or Yaakwabah, right? And his name means toward Jacob, Yaakwab. But if we say it with the I at the end, it'd be Yaakwabah, right? So Hebrew definition of Jacob, heel catcher, right? Israelitish patriarch, heel holder. But we know that Aquab means heel, or you could say heel holder, but we see Yah at the prefix of his name. Okay, so in the slave database, you see Yaakobah. And I went to another slave database. You have a couple of them that's out there. But in this particular one, notice what we see in the background. Let me zoom it in. Hopefully you guys can catch it. Let me zoom it in. Bahia, but we see Wida. You guys know Wida, right? When you go to the map of West Africa, especially the map of Africa 1710, you'll see Wida there. It'll have Wida, Fida, which transliterates to Judah. This is the Portuguese word for Judah. Right? So we see this person's name is Yaakwabah. Yaakwabah in the ancient Hebrew, but Yaakobah, as we see here inside the slave database. Notice what you see here, Yaakobah. Why are we seeing this name in the slave database? So I gave you two key sources. I gave you a map. I gave you the slave database. But now let's hear a testimony of someone from there. Now, I'm going to show this in a second here, but as you see here, as I highlight, right? Yaakobah, Wida, Freetown, 1829. So we see Hebrew names on the slave ships. Hebrew names, this is not a Muslim name. This is an ancient Hebraic name. But we see Hebraic names on the slave ship. And we know that Jacob, Yaakobah, right, or Yaakwab, name was changed to Yashara'al. So another famous Israelite whose name was Jacob, who made it clear his name is Jacob. Equiana, or Olaudah Equiana, on page 45, when we go to his own testimony, this is what he says on page 64. While I was on board of this ship, my captain and my master named me Gustavus Vasa. I at that time began to understand him a little. So he didn't understand fully, but he started realizing, that's I'm just explaining what he's saying here, that he changed his name. Once he got an understanding of why he was calling him Gustavus Vasa, notice how he responded. He says here, and refused to be called so, and told him as well as I could that I would be called Jacob. So this is putting you in the mindset or the imagery of Kunta Kinte from Roots. And I don't even like to use the word Kunta Kinte, because if you look up the word Kunta, right, do the etymology of the word Kunta, drop the A off of it, and instead of saying Kunta, you'll see what the word actually means. It's very degrading. But anyway, and refused to be called so, and told him as well as I could. In other words, he tried his best to try to communicate with him in their language by telling him that his name would be, that he would be called Jacob. He would answer to Jacob, Yaakwabah. But he said, I should not, and still called me Gustavus. And when I refused to answer to my new name, which at first I did, it gained me many cuff. So at length I submitted, and by which I have been known ever since. So he's given his own testimony that his name is Jacob, right on those slave ships, on the slave ships. So we have three witnesses. We have the prophecy, we have of course, the map that I shared with you guys. We have the slave database. And then also we have someone that was on the slave ships that came off those slave ships demanding to be called Jacob, Ya'aquab, or Ya'aquaba, or Yakoba, being the demanding to call him Jacob. So you can't get around this. You cannot get around this. So, family, names are important. I'll say that again. Names are important. So now when we go to Genesis chapter 4, verse 1, I want to show you just how important names are, even with dealing with uh, Cain and Abel. When we're dealing with Cain and Abel, we'll see just how important names are. Family, show some love to my cousin, Shalonda Carr, the wife of my cousin, the late Dr. Sean Carr. Show us some love here. Great seeing you in the chat, cuz. Really appreciate you. Thank you for the words and support, the prayers. And I really appreciate you, sis. Show some love for my cousin here, Shalonda Carr. Appreciate you, cuz. Great seeing you in the chat. And I know this is an unscheduled live, but decided to do a live tonight just to, touch on what I touched on in this Shabbat earlier today. So really appreciate you, sis. Really appreciate you. So Genesis chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. Let's start here. I'm going to show you the importance of names. You can learn so much about Cain and Abel, right? So when we look here, it says, when we read here, it says, and Adam knew Yadai, Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, Qayan, and said, I have gotten a man from Yahweh. Let me read it again. And Adam knew Yada or Yadai, Eve, Chawa, his wife, and she conceived and bare Qayan and said, I have gotten a man from Yahweh. Verse 2, and she began, excuse me, and she again bare his brother Habal, which transliterates to Abel. But his name in ancient Hebrew is Habal. And Abel was a keeper, Ra'ah, of sheep, but Cain was a tiller, Ibad, of the ground. So much to unpack here. But what does the scripture mean when it says Adam knew Eve? What does the holy text mean when it says Adam knew Eve? Well, let me explain it to you guys. Let me explain it to you. Here's the Hebrew definition. Here's the Hebrew word of that transliterates to know or knew, also praise in many cases, Yada'ah, right? Or Yada'ai, right? It says here, to know, right? And this tells us including observation, care, recognition, acknowledge, acquaintance with, right? So advise, answer, appoint, assuredly, be aware, be diligent, know, cause to let know, make know, right? So this is what it means. This is what Yada'ah or Yada in ancient Hebrew means. So let's go to the etymology definition of this word. Let's see what it says about this word knew. We're going to go to the verb portion of it. It says, perceive a thing to be identical with another, be able to distinguish, perceive or understand as a fact or truth, right? But it goes on to say to experience, live through. But this is the part of the definition that just really doesn't sit well with me because, knowing the word this phrase sexual intercourse, to have sexual intercourse, that is so secular that really doesn't give you the full definition of this. And I don't like to use the word sex because of, as you see here, attested from 1540s in colloquial phrases suggesting, cunning or savvy, but often in the negative perspective. So I don't like to use this here. I like to use the word intimacy. And let's see what intimacy means, because Yada'ai or Yada also means intimate when you do the full use some of the other etymological dictionaries out here of Hebrew. But notice what we see here. It says closely acquainted. Now that's giving us more of an understanding of Adam's relationship with Eve, especially after they got in trouble and kicked out the garden. closely acquainted, very familiar, make known, announce, impress, inmost, innermost, deepest, close friend. Let me say that again, close friend, right? So we know that they were close. That's all they had. That all they had was each other. Okay. So now when we look at the definition of conceive, and I'm going here for a reason as well, because you have some that are teaching that Cain is the seed of Hasatan, that Cain impregnated Eve, right? But that's not true. Hara means to be pregnant or become pregnant, to be with child. But when we go back to this here, let's go back to Genesis, right? 1. And let's see what it says. It says, Adam knew Eve, yada I. In other words, he was intimate with his wife. And she conceived and bare Cain, Kwayan, and said, I have gotten a man from Yahweh. So Hasatan is nowhere involved in this. Now, Hasatan, he deceived her. She engaged in a forbidden conversation. She took of the forbidden fruit, which is conversation, which caused her to give that conversation to Adam, and he ate of that fruit, and they went against the Most High. But we see here, just this verse right here alone knocks down any suggestions that Hasatan is the biological father of Cain. So I want to make sure I'm clear. I want to make sure that I take the time out to answer and knock down a lot of these things that are circulating. And you have some educators, some theologians that are actually teaching this nonsense, that Cain is the son, the physical son of Hasatan, and that Eve had an affair cheated on Adam by having an intimate relationship with the serpent. Come on, family.
What?
This is what's being taught. All right. So this completely knocks all of this down. So let's go back to where we were. All right. We defined the word conceived, right? So we know that Eve had an intimate relationship with Adam, her husband. She did not commit adultery. Contrary to what many people believe in their approach to the holy text, right? The law of marriage was there from the very beginning. Very beginning. So that's a whole nother discussion, but I'm going to touch on a couple of things here to bring a certain point here to reinforce that point. All right. So Adam had an intimate relationship with his wife, Kawa, Eve, and she became pregnant. And so the joy of expectant mothers and fathers is wonderful. But guess what? The joy of Adam and Kawa, which is Eve, must have been beyond joy. I mean, a joy beyond imagination. Put yourself in their position, right? Because here it is, they are giving birth to the first child ever. Because when the Most High created them, Adam was created first. Eve created out of Adam. Adam created out of the Adamah. Eve created out of the Adam. Right. So now we have the first child ever. So there was more to Adam and Eve's Kawa joy than just the pregnancy and birth of their first child. Now, here's the kicker. When you study these names, and I'm going to prove this, there was the hope of the promised seed, the promised savior. There was hope. Why? Because Adam and Eve, Kawa, were bound to be hoping, if not expecting, that this child would be their savior, the one who was to restore them to perfection and make it possible for them to re-enter the Garden of Eden. Now, I know you guys probably asking this question, Pastor. Come on, you got to give me some proof here. Now, here's a key prophecy here. And I will put enmity, ayaba, which means active hostility, between thee, the woman, and between thy seed, Zara, and her seed, Zara, and it shall bruise, shall whop thy head, Ra'ash, and thou shalt bruise, shall whop his heel, Aquaba, right? Or Aquab, bruise his heel. All right. So why would I say this? How did I come up with this understanding? Again, it's all in the name. And I'm going to show you here, starting with the names of Canaan or Qayan and Habal. The answer lies in the name of the children. Let's start with Cain. Let's see what Cain name means, right? Ancient Hebrew is Qayan, but in the Israeli language is Cain, right? And notice it says with a play upon the affinity to, and it gives the reference here, but it says here Cajun. Wait a minute, Cajun is a type of spice, right? A special spice whose face is at the front of this word Cajun. It's a dark melanated people. Anyway, so the name of the first child, Cain, possession. So Cain, Qayan, name means to acquire. It means to get. It means possess. Let me say it again. Qayan, Cain's name means to acquire. It means to get. It means to possess. So when the child was born, Eve, Kawa, declared that her child was to be called Qayan because she had gotten a child from Yahweh. So Eve thought Yahweh had given her the promised seed who was to be the deliverer by way of her naming him this name, because I just gave you the meaning of it, right? So, but let's see what Abel's name means. Habal means. This is going to be an eye raiser here. This is going to raise your eyebrows here because it's going to give you a true understanding of Cain and Abel, why there was animosity. When I think about this, it puts me in the mindset of Jacob and Esau. See, parents, we have to be careful. Just by the names alone, we can place strongholds. We can place animosity between seeds, the children. But let's see what Abel's name means. Habal. Let's see what it means, right? When we go here, right, it says son of Adam. It means breath. But it means more than that, family. Let's go to the primitive root word. You're going to see the same letters here. Habal versus Habal, right? Habal, this is the primitive root word of that. And this gives you even more of an understanding of what its name means. Notice what it says. It says to be vain and act, word, or expectation. Let me say that again. To be vain in action, word, or expectation. To act emptily, become vain. Wow. This is Habal. This is the name of Abel. Doesn't sound pretty positive to me. Sounds like the point of emphasis were placed on the older. Right? So this is Habal's, which transliterates to Abel. Habal's, this is the meaning of his name. To be vain in action, word, or expectation. But let's go to the Ernest Klein etymological dictionary definition of Habal, and let's see what it says as well. We see breath, we see emptiness, we see vanity, we see fool, we see weak-minded, idiotic. This gives you some understanding here of the issues that Cain and Abel had, right? But when we go to the etymology dictionary definition of vain, notice what it says here. Devoid of real value, idle, unprofitable, worthless, void, invalid, feeble, conceited, empty, void, idle, fruitless, to leave, abandon, give out. Is this the reason why Cain had this type of attitude towards his own brother? See, based on this definition of Abel or Habal's name, is this the reason why Cain murdered him? Is this why Cain Qayan asked Yahweh if he was his brother's keeper, if he was Abel, Habal's, if he was his keeper? Is this the reason why he asked him that? Especially when he really, based upon his name, saw an emptiness, didn't really see any value to his own brother. So let's go to Eve's name, and this is why I'm tying all these names in together, because we see that Eve name means the mother of life, but it goes even further than that. So let me share with you the meaning of Eve's name. Right on the surface, you're going to see this: life giver, the first woman, Eve, right? Life or living. But we have to go to the primitive root word, right? Kawa, right? Not kava. Kava is not ancient Hebrew. That va, there was no v sounds or va sounds or v sounds in ancient Hebrew. All right. And you could confirm this with other Shemitic languages. But anyway, when we go to the primitive root word, which is above it, right? Kawa, right? Notice what it says here. It says to declare or show, to tell, declare, make known. So Eve's responsibility was to speak life, declare life by words, encouraging Adam, for example, not to give up on his responsibility. And I just explained this question here. What was Eve's responsibility? What was Eve's gift? Eve's responsibility is to keep Adam from giving up on his responsibilities. When you see the passage that it wasn't good for man to be alone, you'll see la'ah haya, right? Which transliterates not to quit. So Eve's responsibility was to ensure that Adam did not give up on his responsibilities to the Most High. So not only did she have that responsibility to encourage Adam, she had to do the same with her children. And of course, Adam shared the same responsibility of encouraging Eve. But Eve, again, she is the mother of life. Names have meaning. So this gives you more of an understanding the difference between Cain and Abel, right? You can also see the relationship Adam had with both sons based upon the profession. All right, we'll get to that in a second here. So the name Eve, Kawa, means to live, by implication to declare or show, to tell, declare, make known. So Eve was given the power to declare life. So when we go to Proverbs 18:21, right, this ties in and tells you what the forbidden fruit is. Death and life, right? Life, kayam, or kayim in the Israeli pronunciation, right, are in the power, yad, of the tongue, lashawan, right? And they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. So when we go back to Genesis chapter 4, verse 2, and I'm telling you, saying this for a reason, parents, be careful of the names that you give your children. Research these names. Go back to the prophecy as we highlighted in Isaiah. Go back to the prophecy. Do like what our ancestors did. They were very strategic in the names that they given their children. So again, and she again bare his brother Abal or Habal, and Abel was a keeper, Ra'ah, of sheep, but Cain was a tiller, Abad, of the ground. Now, there's so many nuggets here, right? But when we look at keeper, right, because we see Habal was a keeper. So he tended to the flock, to associate as a friend, companion, keep company with, feed, use as a friend, right? Keep sheep, shepherd, right? Pastor. So this tells you that when we look at the professions, these were the professions of their father Adam. So Adam had to teach both sons how to take on those professions. He divided his profession into two. This means that he had to teach, of course, Cain how to cultivate, how to till the ground, which took a lot of work. But he taught Habal how to what? Tend to the flock, tend to the garden from a perspective of going to and fro as a watchman. So that means he had to spend a lot of time with his father going on these walks, these extensive walks, because the Garden of Eden was a region. It wasn't just like what we think today, like it's like a small piece of property. No, it was a region. So this is the responsibility of Habal. He was a keeper. Tend to the flock, right? His name is also says to associate with as a friend, companion, keep company with. So Adam kept company with Habal as he taught him this profession. Feed, use as a friend, keep. All right, keep sheep, shepherd, pastor. But then when we look at tiller, and again, this makes me think of Jacob and Esau, uh, their relationship, how the father favored Esau and how the mother favored Jacob. This makes me think of the prodigal son. We have other examples that we could go off of. All right. We could deal with how the relationships of how Jacob favored Rebekah, and of course the seeds from Rebekah, and caused a lot of problems among the brethren. So when we look at the word till, abide, it means to work, to serve, till, compel, do, execute, keep, labor. So we see that this is part of the responsibility of Cain. Cain was someone who was a cultivate. He had to cultivate the land. He had to what? Understand culture. Cultivate comes from, they're interchangeable. Cultivate comes from culture, right? And when you say culture, when you study what culture means and what you mean, when you study what cultivate means, this means that Canaan had to have the gift of promoting growth, the promotion of growth. That's what it means. Culture, cultivate, promoting the atmosphere of growth, which falls right in line with the atmosphere of change. So follow, fulfill, go about, observe, bring to pass, right? So Cain and Abel learned their professions from their father. Cain and Abel learned how to have a direct relationship with Yahweh by their father and of course their mother. They learned their relationship, and that's how Cain knew how to speak directly to the father. Notice you don't see Adam in the middle being the middleman, right? So let's go to Genesis verse 3. Genesis 4 verse 3. Let's see what it says, right? And in the process of time, we're going to close out with this, and I'll drop the link in the comment section. And in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yahweh. So in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought the fruit, right? Parai of the ground, Adamah, and an offering, Manakah, unto Yahweh. So let's dissect this first portion of this verse here. Let's deal with in the process of time. Let's deal with that. In the process of time, it came to pass. Let's define process, right? It says here, after, and, finite, infinite, or infinite, at the end of time. What time? We know that we're not dealing with the end of the world when we see in the process of time. What are we dealing with in this passage? What are we dealing with in this passage? Well, let me break it down to you, right? In the process of time, it came to pass, it's referring to the 6 days of work and to cease from it on the seventh day. In the process of time, in other words, the 6 days of working and to cease from it on the seventh day, proving that Adam honored the Shabbat, Cain and Abel honored the Shabbat. When we go to Exodus chapter 20, verse 9 through 11, or should we say 8, it says here, remember, Zakawar, or Zakwar, the Shabbat, right? Day, Shabbat. Shabbat means rest, but it also means celebrate. So remember the Shabbat day to keep it holy, Quadash. 6 days, here's the process. The block of time, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. Verse 10, but the seventh day is the Shabbat of Yahweh thy Elohim. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy strangers that is within thy gates. Verse 11, for in 6 days, 6 days, Yawam, and we have here Yam Yam or Yamin, right, in the Israeli. But in 6 days, right, we could say Yam again. 6 days, Yahweh made heaven and earth, heaven, Shemayim, right, earth, Aratazah, the sea, right, and all in them is, and rested Shabbat the seventh day. Wherefore Yahweh blessed Barak the seventh day and hallowed it, quadashed it. Right now, if you want to understand the word Shabbat, meaning celebrate, go to Leviticus chapter 23. And where you see celebrate there, you go to the ancient Hebrew, you'll see Shabbat. So the Shabbat is not just rest, the day of rest, it's also a day of celebrating. Celebrating who? The Most High. So we see in the process of times, right? That is the 6 days. That is the 6 days. And the process of time is the 6 days. So Cain and Abel was taught the importance of atonement because we see both of them are giving sacrifices. So this had to be on the Shabbat and honoring the Shabbat, the importance of the day of atoning and honoring the Shabbat. So when we go back to Genesis verse 4 and 5, right? And Abel, he also brought the firstlings of his flock and the fat thereof, and Yahweh had respect unto Abel and to his offerings. But unto Cain and to do his offerings, he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. So I'm going to stop right here because I don't want to get into this next set because that could take some time to go through this right here. But I'm going to stop right here. But I wanted to give you a perspective on getting a proper understanding on what occurred with Cain and Abel, as far as how names have meaning. And you can kind of see the animosity. You can see that Canaan had no respect for his brother, but we'll touch on that next time we come together and I continue on this teaching. But I really want to focus on the names to really show the importance of the names. Names have meaning. Names are important, right? And we have to be careful how we name our children. We have to be careful how we name items around us. We have to be careful of these things. Names have meaning. All right. So I'm dropping the link inside the comment section. I'm going to stop right here. Right. I know I gave a lot of information, especially dealing with the names, the importance of the names, showing how Jacob's name is a sign, proof, evidence. We see the Most High's name, the short form of his name, inside the slave database. We actually see the Yahweh, right, which can also be Yahweh. We see that inside the slave database as someone's name. Right, still had the 4 letters. All right, but anyway, really appreciate it, family. I'm dropping the link inside the comment section for anyone that want to jump on in the question section. I encourage you guys, let's try to stay on topic, not try to get too far away from what we're dealing with tonight. But let me take some of these arrows out here. All right, so I'm going to drop the link again for anyone that want to jump on. I think I saw my sister Ashonda that was live for a minute. If you're still there, you're more than welcome. So again, as I wait for those to come online, let me just give some shout outs here in the process. I want to say shalom to Black to My Roots. I want to say shalom to Joy, Sister Joy. I want to say peace and blessings. Shalom to you as well. Ray Graphics Design. Sister Alexandria Leggett. I want to say shalom to you as well. Appreciate the love and support. Abimelech, Harlem Yahuda. I want to say peace and blessings to you. Of course, my cousin, shalom to you. Really appreciate you, sis. Really appreciate all that you do. Octeria Phillips. I want to say peace and blessings to you. Who else do we have here? Sister Yvette Rivera, excuse me. I want to say shalom to you as well. Let's see here. General Warman. I want to say peace and blessings to you. I want to say shalom to you. Who else do we have here? Icy Tine C or Teen C. All right. I want to say peace and blessings to you. Forgive me if I mispronounce your name. Let's see here. Shalom in the God Dang Me tribe in Ghana. Ama means to build up like house, to put up something or to stuck or stick something up like wooden blocks. Appreciate the breakdown. Appreciate the breakdown. Peace and blessings to you. Thank you for the love and support and joining this session today. Really appreciate you. Let's see here. Lion Pride. Want to say peace and blessings to you. That's right. We got to stay strong. Peace, blessings, love. Stay strong, family. We got to stay strong, especially in this time that we live in. Jason Camphor. Want to say peace and blessings to you. Let's see. Yahuda Ben Yah. Want to say shalom to you as well. Corey Barbie. YouTube channel, the Way to Heaven. Want to say peace and blessings to you. Peace and blessings to you. Maria, want to say peace and blessings to you. Shalom, Mash Paka or Mish Paka, how you pronounced it here. I want to say peace and blessings to you as well, family. Let's see who else do we have here. Let's see here. Ray Chantel, want to say peace and blessings to you again. And that's right. That's why I wanted to give clarity that Hasatan is not the physical or the biological father of Cain. Now, we could say Cain operated in the spirit of Hasatan, right? Just like Esau operated in the spirit of Hasatan because of his behavior. He threatened to kill the seed, the promised seed, Jacob. If he killed Jacob, then ultimately he's killing the promised seed, the Messiah. So when we really read the text, right, Cain, when he killed his brother, right, that is operating in the spirit of Hasatan, right? So with that being said, really appreciate it, sis. Ari Lynn, I want to say peace and blessings to you, sis. Thank you for the love and support. I really appreciate you. Chris Curry, I want to say peace and blessings to you. Let's see here. Unspoken Voices Inside Media. I want to say peace and blessings to you. Let's see here. Who else? Your content about growing up was a home run. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, we had a point in time that we have to really be mature. We got to start growing up. We got to mature in this walk, right? We can't keep having the same conversations of babes. We have to be mature. Eventually, we have to get to a point that we can have increase our conversations and discussions. So really appreciate you again for the love and support. Brother Enoch, want to say peace and blessings to you. Stay on Fire Ministry. Want to say peace and blessings to you. Thank you for even the love and support and being on some of our prayer calls. Let's see, who else do we have here? TM Cross Post, peace and blessings to you. Let's see here. She La, want to say peace and blessings to you, or Chef La. My buddy Apostle, peace and blessings to you. Really appreciate it. Didn't see you inside the comment section. I dropped the link. Feel free if you want to jump on. The link is inside the comment section. Peace and blessings to you, Apostle, who's holding it down out in Louisiana. And family, if you're in the Louisiana area, go out and visit Apostle, doing the great work in defending the community and waking up our people. Cam 2 Player, want to say peace and blessings to you, holding it down in Las Vegas. Who else do we have here? John Brown, Charles West. If I can't get to you all, family, I can only do but so much. Like the old school would say, charge it to my head, not to my heart. Trying to get as much as I can done here. Mama's Baby Truth Academy, want to say peace and blessings to you. All right. DeWitt Patton, peace and blessings to you. All right. All right, family. Did as much as I could. Let me see. Ebo Yisrael, want to say Shabbat Shalom to you as well. Appreciate you, my brother. And let's see here. Bethaya Ya Batya Yisrael, want to say peace and blessings to you, holding it down in San Jose, California. Tiffany Moore, want to say peace and blessings to you as well. Thank you for the love and support. And let me drop this inside the link. Those, if anyone want to contribute to the work here, I'll drop my Cash App information here. Let's see. All right. That's the Cash App information. And it's also on the ticker as well. So with that being said, family, really appreciate it. Not going to prolong the night here. Looks like no one jumped on tonight, which is fine. But again, really appreciate the love and support. I encourage you guys to go back and listen to this teaching, because this teaching, once I get to the full how can I put it, breakdown of this particular chapter, right? It's a lot of nuggets. There's some things that's going to take us right into chapter 6, right? When we start dealing with the fallen angels. So it's really going to set us up to transition into that portion of the teachings. What is your congregation doing for Passover, Pesach? We honor the Passover. We honor Pesach here. So I'll post the dates. It's the second Shabbat of April is when we're celebrating it. We don't charge anything. If you're in the Richmond area, I'll post the information on it. I'm going to start promoting that over the next week. If you're in the Richmond area and you want to come and honor the Pesach with us, come on out. Doesn't cost you anything. Just bring an appetite. Food is free. Just come on out. And like I said, I'll drop the information over the next week or so. All right. So really appreciate you, family. Thank you for the love and support. Let's see here. I'm looking for a congregation in New York. Reach out to me. Shoot me an email. I have a congregation. I don't have one, but I have someone that's a good friend doing great work out in New York, and I can give you his information. He's very thorough with teaching and obeying the law, statutes, and commandments. All right. So with that being said, family, in the words of Moses in Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14, the words of Moses, or should I say in the words of the Most High through Moses, when he had to encourage the children of Israel, when they were dealing with what seemed to be a dead end. The Egyptians coming from the rear, ready to slaughter many of them and bring them right back into captivity, and they began to panic. So the Most High gave these words to Moses to give to the people. He said, "Fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, you will not have to deal with them ever again. The Most High will fight for you, but you have to hold your peace." And the Hebrew word inside this passage, inside this text, is the Hebrew word charash, which means be quiet. Can't go back, can't stay here, keep moving forward. Shalom.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14, verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was black. Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Cain. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was the... Jacob had 12 sons. For real, and these were the children of Israel, according to Genesis chapter 10. These were the children of Israel, according to Genesis chapter 10.